Hello, potential backers and friends. This is Jason Duff, lead developer of Heroes and Hardships by Earl of Fife Games. Today, I wanted to show you the very basics of our Heroes and Hardships dice pool system and how that works, and a few options for it, so you can get a idea of what happens when you make a skill check. Primarily, most of what you will do in Heroes and Hardships are make skill checks when you roll. There are also times you might roll on a table for wounds and surges and things like that. Now that doesn't constitute a skill check necessarily, and then there's other rolls that have skill checks in them. So, like if you make a death roll, which is, if you're going to die or not in certain situations, you make a skill roll, but there's some modifications to that roll that make it unique to itself. Regardless, skill rolls are probably 90% of what you're going to see. This is a D10 dice pool system. We've taken inspiration from such legendary games as 7th Sea and Legend of the Five Rings, but there's quite a bit of nuance to the system where that it is not the same at all. Just there have similarities, but they're not exactly the same. Okay, let's look at we have a troll here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple things on the character sheet. This is a Roll20 character sheet, which is available for everyone. Okay, what you have here is you have our attributes. So let's look at the strength. That's 4. Okay, and then the skills, or I'm sorry, let's look at endurance is 4, and let's look at the skills under endurance. Okay, so you have recovery, resilience, and stamina. We'll just do recovery. So the way dice pools work in Heroes and Hardships is you add your skill and your attribute together to get the number of rolled dice, rolled d10s. You make that roll and you keep your attribute numbers. So in this case, it's a 4. So we're going to roll, if we do a recovery roll, we would roll 6d10 and then we would keep 4 of those. Okay, so let me show you in practice how it works. I'll just roll it and we'll see the results. So we got a 34, and it has a nice, interesting way that it shows this that we can see. Okay, 60, 10, drop 2. 2 is our recovery skill. If you look at the results, you'll see it was an 8, a 17, a 7, a 2, a 2, and a 2. Well, how do you get a 17? Well, in instances where you are trained in a skill, which means you have a skill rank, the dice is said to explode. That means if you roll a 10, you roll another d10, and then you add that to the previous die. And that can continue as long as you roll 10s, which can give you some varying results. Okay, so here you have your 34. You have 6 die were rolled, and 4 were kept. 1 of them exploded, so we rolled another die and got a 7, and so we have a 17 on that die now. Okay, that's how the rolls work. The basic rolls work. It's very simple. So you have a total of 34 here. There are some things that can alter your rolls. There's a concept of a benefit. A benefit comes when you do certain things or you have an advantage. A really good example of a benefit use in Heroes and Hardships is the aim action in combat. When you use the aim action in combat, based on how many action points you spend, you get a benefit. So if I'm using a gun and pointing it at someone, or even if I'm doing a melee attack, I can aim. When I aim, each time I aim, it gives me a benefit. So benefits add to your rolled dice. So if I had a benefit in this situation, in recovery, instead of rolling 6 dice, I would roll 7. However, I would still keep 4, and that's a benefit. Another thing that happens potentially is having a static modifier. This static modifier can be positive or negative, and this happens as you're rolling the dice. So if I rolled this 6d4, keep 4, I would have, maybe I have a static modifier of a -3. A -3 is something you'll see often in Heroes and Hardships, particularly for injuries, which apply a -3 penalty to all your rolls. So if I make this roll and I got a 34, but I had a -3 penalty, instead it would be a 31. The last main thing that you see that can alter your dice and how they work is something called a hardship. Hardships are a sort of penalty dice, and there are various types of penalty dice in the game. A hardship is one of them. You can get them for taking wounds and doing other things. This is actually a modifier to the difficulty. Or you can actually just subtract it from your roll. It really doesn't matter which way you do it, but it can be either. If we subtract it from our roll, what a hardship is instead of a static -3, you roll a d10 and you subtract that result from your result. So let's say if I had a 34 and I rolled a d10 and got a 7, then instead I'm going to have a 27. Okay? Now, the thing about hardships is they also explode. So it's possible I would get a -20 on one dice. So it does have some variability. That's why wounds are so impactful in this game, and other penalty dice as well. And so they can be quite variable. So that is basically our dice pool mechanic that I wanted to explain to you today. And that's how it works in Heroes and Hardships. I really hope you consider backing us, and thank you for your time.